Hi, everybody. My name is Carrie Hamilton, and I'm on the board of the TDC. And I'm here today with Paul Carlos and Carol Waller. And we are very happy to have Armin Vit of UnderConsideration and brand new sharing his screen on Zoom for the very first time. Just want to get some quick housekeeping taken care of before we start. First of all, we'd like to encourage everybody to please, if you're not already a TDC member, to please join. It's a great way of continuing to sustain the TDC and to keep bringing all this programming to you. You can also contribute to TDC scholarships. I believe, do we have, I'm sorry, Paul, I ran ahead of you and we got some slides behind it. There we go. Contribute to TDC scholarships using the link that was just up there. There we go. There it is. And now we can move on to Armin. Take it away, Armin.
All right. I hope you are all well from wherever you are joining us, joining me and the TDC. It is a pleasure to be here connecting, talking to other human beings other than my family, which I love dearly. But, after 2 months of this, I'm ready to talk, even if it's just into the camera, to other designers. So what I thought I would do is that I never get to, whenever I make a presentation, I just share whatever the final fancy files and photos we put together for the case study. And I'm never able to share like the actual early parts of the process, because there's all the fonts that need to be loaded and all these files that are massive and gangly and whatever. But I'm sitting on my computer, I can share my screen. So what I thought I would do this time is just like walk you through how I design logos. I'm not going to design anything in real time. I do not have a death wish to have 400 people judge me in real time as I design something. But so what I want to do is I'm going to show you 3 projects that we've done for clients in the past 2 years, and how I go from, I have some sketches that I do in this, this kind of like notebooks, and I might show you some of them. We'll see if we have the time. So my goal is to, as you're watching the process and how I start designing, I think I don't expect you to go like, oh my God, all those logos are amazing. He's such a genius. He knows how to do everything right, because I don't. Like, one of the things that that I believe is that I'm not that really good of a graphic designer. I'm not that smart. I'm not that clever. But when it comes to Adobe Illustrator, I'm a beast. Like, I can really, that's where I excel. No pun intended. That's where I can really, that's my strength. So that if you're a great designer because you have talent, then great. Then you might gain some tips. If you're a so-so designer like me, then this is how you get to a level that's a little bit more interesting. So, the first project that I'm going to show you is for the BPP, which is the Bloomington Playwrights project here in Bloomington, Indiana, where we're located. This is their old logo that they had, which is supposed to be a couple of pages from a script, because all they do is commission new plays to be produced. This is their theater. It's a really small theater. But as you can see, it's very, very colorful on the outside, lots of blue, lots of big, bold letters. So with this one, what's great about the Bloomington Playwrights project is that most people know it as the BPP. So we had those 3 great letters, 2 of them that repeat, as a starting point for the logo. So there's, I sometimes design things and then we'll build meaning into them that then the client can be like, oh, that, you tell them a little story about a certain design and they can see, they can see how that plays out in a design. But at the beginning, especially in this case, because the letters are so graphic and so easy to play with, I'm just playing with the B's and the P's and seeing what comes up. So this was one of the first, this was the first sketch that I worked on. And the way that I set up my files is I'll start here in the corner. You can see that I started here with some really nasty serif. I don't even know where that came from. I must have scanned it or something. But I usually start on the upper left corner, and then I start working my way to the right and to the bottom, so that when I get to this, this is where, like this area right here. I don't. Can you see my mouse?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
good. All right. So when I get to this area, I know that this is the last, sort of the last logo that I worked on, or the last iteration that I worked on, and the one that I'm, in theory, happiest with. So, in this case, kind of like this is one of the first ideas that I sketched out, and let me see if I can find it rather quickly in my little notebook. Yeah. So let's see. Can you see? Yeah. So. I sort of sketched it. I'm a terrible sketcher in general, but when it comes to letters, those sketches I can more or less do fine. So I sketched that out, and then it was a matter of bringing in to Illustrator. At the beginning, the first thing that I did was just sort of create the bones for the three letters, and then starting to see if I can build in thicks and thins, if it's just a single stroke, if it's more abstract like that, and starting to match some font, some different typefaces to the different executions. So this is more of kind of like the serif with the serif, sans serif with more of like the abstract shapes and stuff like that. So in this case, because we knew that we were not going to redesign the website at any point, I just wanted to make sure that whatever I design would, let me turn off the pixel preview, that whatever I design could live on the website if we just dropped it on. So, this design that I thought was pretty nice with the thin strokes, once you put it on the website, it doesn't quite hold up. So that was like the first idea. And then, I take it to, I keep working on this up until the point where I feel like, all right, that's good enough for now. And I move on to the next idea. This one, the really pretty thing about the BPP letters is that when you go lowercase, you have these 3 circles and 3 sticks that at first I thought, kind of like I start with the easy things, right? So I start here on the top left, and it's just 3 circles with 3 sticks. That's sort of interesting. It became more interesting when I tilted the sticks so that they would, the stems. We're all professionals here. I should know I should speak with the proper terms. But what I'm doing is, I turn them around, and then I figured, oh, what if I hide the circles a little bit more so that they're not just so you can see a little bit more of a difference between them. Here on the right side, it was too much. It started to lose that nice contrast in there. Then seeing what happens if I separate them, they start to look like music notes. And then I figured like this logo would work best if it's always in a 3 color way, so that you can clearly see the B, the P, and the P. And then, again, starting to put it on the website, see if it works. And then I leave that alone. And then I move on to the next. Sometimes I'll think that I want to use a specific typeface. In this case, Cigarette by Heffer, I think. And then, it wasn't there. There wasn't much there, so I just left that at that amount of exploration. And then going back to the idea of the circles and the stems and seeing what, if I could bring in dots for each of the letters that sort of echo, the counter spaces of the 3 letters, seeing if there are some interesting typefaces that would yield good, good abstractions of the BPP. And then here, these are not particularly good down here, but just starting to see, can it go into something more triangular, and then something ITC, Bauhausy, and that when you reach here, like you have to stop. Like it's not the best look. It doesn't always work. And then seeing, well, maybe if it's not a a straight up cut? What if it's more of a wispy join, and then also like leave that alone? And then, as I'm playing with the letters, like, oh, that's sort of interesting. If you raise the piece off from the baseline, and it gives you that, it looks silly, but I thought it was something interesting, particularly here. I believe this is maple black from Process Type Foundry, and then just more geometric approaches. And then again, seeing how those work on the website. And sometimes I'll have 2 or 3 different ideas going on in the same file, but I try to just keep it to one so that each file is a different sketch. Then here, everything about the Playwrights project is it's about writing. So I thought, well, maybe you could have paragraph marks or pilcrows as the B and the P, and it was just a matter of like, the pilcrow and just rotating it for the B's and the P's. In this case, with a more of a sans serif font, you could just stack the 2 paragraphs to create the B. And if you look at with the wire preview, you can start to see. I'm not worried about getting those things finished. I'm just worried about getting the idea sort of in front of my eyes, and then seeing what is this too tall, too long? Does it work better when it's all nicely stacked in a single block? And then again, trying it on the website. See option 6. This one, I got really excited by this idea. And then again, going back to the sticks and to the stems and the circles, that you could, sort of cut up those letters in half and then split them so that they could create this expansive sort of word mark. And then I tried it first in lowercase, which I thought was pretty convincing. I tried it in uppercase, which wasn't as convincing. And again, like looking at the wires, it's just kind of like a big mess back here behind the scenes. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. Like once I do a final logo, none of this will be here. It would just be like nice, crisp lines. And again, playing with the, breaking them apart in half and seeing, is it still readable? When you go uppercase, it starts to look more like an F. Trying to some kind of like old school NYC monogram type things here. And then I figured, all right, that's good, move on. This one you can see that I'm more excited about because I start testing out more ideas outside of the artboard. And I purposely put them outside of the artboard because in my mind, then I can be like, all right, all this stuff outside the artboard is just extra. Right now, I want to focus on the logo, but I'm still at the same time playing around with these things, and I just move them around so that when I hit Command 0, that's what I'm looking at. It's just the actual logo. And here is just like a kind of like a geometric approach and filling in the counter spaces in different ways, and that could give you different configurations for the B's and the P for the BPP lockups, with the idea that all their plays are about different genres, but they're all revolve around that they're theater. So we thought that could be a nice little interplay there. And so yeah, finally in the explorations, just like whenever in doubt, just try hard shadow. It never fails, and because it just looks nice. So things like this, like that little line, I don't know if you can see it, but stuff like that when I'm sketching, it just drives me crazy. So every now and then I will, I didn't clean it up here, but I get pretty upset by Adobe rendering sometimes. But anyway, so just like trying different fonts, seeing what is readable. Does it need to be 2 color? Can it just fade into the foreground? Does it have to be 3 different colors, etc.? So once I have those, in this case, it was 8 different ideas, then what I'll do is I'll go back and see which ones I can develop further. So I have a bunch of windows open here. So let me go to the right one. All right. So here I start to develop this one a little bit more. This one was almost finished in a way. So just like some final, playing around with it. If the circles stay one color and it's just the stems that change, or this, and or if it's like one letter each color, and then playing around with the typefaces. I guess in this case, I was pretty set on that might be either that's probably either Gotham or Proxima Nova. So I cleaned that up, and then I'm not sure I like this one at all, but in the end, it turned out so colorful and kind of like a theater seating that goes out into the, from the center stage out into the audience, that I thought we could explore that a little bit further. And then this one, I really, really enjoyed this idea. It's kind of, even in the client eventually didn't like it, but I just was very pleased with myself. It's like pretty edgy and interesting, and I thought that you could include messaging in between the split letters, and you could include the sponsors. Like that would make the sponsors so happy. And then the last one, kind of just cleaning up a little bit the explorations that I had before. So once I have this sort of cleaned up versions, then I'll move into InDesign, where I put together the presentation that I'm going to show the client the first round. And I'll pitch that we have an event called First Round, where designers show the first round presentations to clients. But that event is not happening until next year, probably because damn virus. I was going to say the F word, but you're at home, the kids might be around. I don't want to invade your space that way. So this is I'm not going to go through the whole presentation, just through how I present the options. So I'll go into full screen here. And here what I'm doing is like showing the cleanest version first, showing the black on white, showing how it would look with a word mark next to it with the full name, choosing a color, in this case purple. And usually at the beginning, if there's no clear option for a color, I'll just pick 5 different colors and give each design option a color. Like it doesn't matter if this one were green or red or something else. It's just as a way of like prompting the client. And they're showing up on the website. Under existing posters, it's the logos down there at the bottom. This is the current layout for posters. And then, as you can see, like the option 2, this one's called the stories within. So we try to name each option. Sometimes it's a specific name, sometimes it's a phrase, sometimes it's overly descriptive. In this case, they're a little bit more metaphorical because they're theater people, so they like metaphors and stuff. But this is how you can go from just like a cool design thing that you came up with in Illustrator to giving it a story to present to the client. And in the end, like we're not just presenting random stuff. Like we do present things that we know can be explained through their language. So these are the stories within of the plays and whatnot, so the piece or within the B, etc. This one we presented as the serif option, even though we explored the sans serif. And then just again going through the different mockups. Option 3, which is the one that I really like, called Expanding Horizons. Paired it with like a typeface that matched the monogram in a way, showing how it could be locked up in different ways, the 3 colors, and how that would be the cues to join those letters. So you join the gray with the gray, the blue with the blue, and the purple with the purple. Show them this website, etc. Then this one, I don't know why. Like this one, we shouldn't have shown. Now that I see it in retrospect, and it was the first one that they were like, "Nah, we don't like it." So I guess follow your instinct. And then the final. Oh no, there was 2 more. So this one, the idea was that this logo was. The way we pitched it is that it's like an ellipsis. So there's always those moments of tension in plays where you're waiting for to hear what the other person might say. So, we named it Wait For It. And then it builds into that. How it looks on the applications. And then we ran out of ideas of what to name it. And this is just conforming for non-conformists, which is a way of saying like, hey, you can start with this really basic, basic design shapes for the letters, but then you can go get a little bit more crazy and be bold in places that are not supposed to be bold. And how it looks for the website. And then this one would have the benefit of a bunch of different configurations, and they could be built into a pattern. And you could make a really cool frame with it. And then, yeah, the animation could be just, you know, those things, the different negative spaces filling in different places. And with this one, I got a little bit carried away and I did a full pattern animation just because I liked it so much that like, this is how I get this idea sold by showing this animation. Yeah, how it looks on the website, posters, and then just showing the full, the 6 different options together. And then letting them know what their logo looked like. And from there, I'm just they picked option 2 in that first round, and then we revised it to be a sans serif because they really liked the sans serifness of everything else. And it ended up, the way we eventually sold it to the board of directors was with this gift. It's like, hey, we have this paint job on our building. And from there, we were able to narrow, to kind of like extract a new logo from it. So that's the final result. And for this one, we just did the logo. And I did also an animation for this one, and they really liked the animation. Even they don't use it because they think it's a little bit too much, and that's why I like it, because it's too much. It's too much of a good thing, and I enjoy looking at it myself. So there we go. All right, so it's 1:22. So I'm just going to show you one more project. I had 3, but we'll go with 2. All right, so back to Illustrator. No, back to Keynote. And I'm going to show you the Dimension Mill, which is a co-working space here in Bloomington, Indiana, where we're at again. And what's so they refurbished a really old building that is from the late 1800s. And here's what it looks like. And as you can see, like the signature visual of that building is those, you know, those triangles on the roof, which allow for natural light to come in throughout the day. It was one of the first factories in the world to do something like this. They didn't invent it, but they were one of the first to do it. This was a company called the Showers Brothers here in Bloomington, and they're like, at one point, they were the biggest furniture manufacturer in the world, which is insane. Anyway, this was so this was the building, and you know, from the beginning, we put this is again the presentation that we showed, and you know, we made sure that we pointed out, like, look, you have the signature building that has 8 of those segments. So that led to a lot of the initial explorations. So now we're going to go to those, and here we go. So here again, you can see a much more clear. Starting in the beginning on the top left corner, and then moving down as I'm developing different ideas. And this one, let me see if I still have this here. BPP, the mill. So this one I sketched. Let me just find it. Yeah, so this one, you know, a little post-it that I sketched even before we got the project. Like we knew, like, this is a good idea. I'm just going to sketch it out now and develop it later. And this one, actually, a lot of the sketches do translate to what you're about to see. Stuff like that. All right, so I'm proving to you that I sketch by hand often beforehand, even though I suck at it. So here I'm just playing with, let me turn off the pixel preview. So here I'm just playing with the different heights. You know, is this too tall? Is this too short? Now here it's getting way too tall. You know, whether the tittle of the eye is a full sun or moon or just a half sun or moon, that also accentuates the angles of the building. where in the world do I put the stupid the? Like this one was a really hard thing to figure out in general for all of the exploration. Like what do I do with that the? Because it was very important for them to be called the mill, not just mill. And then at some point, just like flipping the triangles, even though it's not the reality, is sort of read a little bit better. But in the end, I landed on this configuration, I think. The next option, so taking those triangle shapes, there's 8 of them, so rotating them to create a little bit of a badge. This stuff here looks like a bear trap of some kind, but I just thought it was like if you were like a crown that you put on someone as with those 8 shapes. And then so yeah, it kind of like took it as far as making it look like a single stroke illustration, but then I ended up in this territory a little bit more where the triangles are not as pronounced and the letters just go whether they go in a circle, and then testing whether the triangles touch, whether they don't touch, whether they have rounded corners, and whether you space them out a little bit more. And then I'm always like I'm obsessive about geometry, so like whenever I'm doing something, I want to make sure that that things are numerically correct. So I make sure that, oh no, it doesn't line up. Never mind. But in theory, whenever I do the last version, I'll make sure that all the points are snapping in place. There goes my whole spiel about obsession in Illustrator. But anyway, just playing around with size of the letters inside that shape, etc. And then, kind of like more abstract versions of the word, kind of going back a little bit to that first idea. And then like, oh, a little bit of moment of inspiration, like, oh, just like keep those, you can make all the 4 letters of the name go into the angles of the roof of the building, again with a stupid the that I don't know where to put or in what style, but trying it center a lot, well, middle align, top align, whatever, and then seeing, okay, so that was interesting. Now how does it look like if I make it bolder? And then like at some point at the end, I'm like, what if I go in the other kind of like a back slant instead of the regular slant of an italic? And like, no, that doesn't work, but it was worth a try. And I leave it at that, and I move on to the next. And this one, I have a bunch of different ideas. So this first one, I don't know, just like, I thought just like the M could be the interesting thing. And then abstracting the V into something, and looks like a factory. Just kind of like ugly stuff over here that doesn't read well, doesn't look good. But here, I insisted on the crown effect or the bear trap idea. But then here's where I sort of, we struck gold with like, oh, the building has 8 sections. I mean, the roof has 8 sections, and the name has 8 characters if you count the space. So that's where when we started to get excited and seeing, what kind of typeface would look good in there. And then, yeah, so here I'm already saying, all right, so what I get to here, like, all right, I have an idea that is a pretty long logo. How does that translate into a social media avatar? So right from the start, I'm thinking about, oh, okay, this logo looks cool, long and wide, but will it actually work inside a circle? It doesn't quite work, so that was interesting, and it was good to find that out at the beginning. Then this one, over here, I just thought, the process of milling involves cylinders. So I just thought, what if you wrapped it around a cylinder and you realize very quickly that's a dumb idea. Maybe it's not dumb, it's just like it's a somewhat random idea that looks terrible in execution. So I abandoned that early on, and then just seeing it like, all right, maybe I don't have to show all 8 segments of the ceiling, but just maybe show a a fraction of them, and then by putting them in a circle, you imply that there is more out to the sides. And then here you're just seeing how, how to deal with the type and the name. Again, like that, it just kept throwing things off. Maybe it's just like that without the text in there. Maybe it's split, maybe it's like that, whatever. And then, again, here I'm just masking things, doesn't have to be finished. You can see this one is pretty gnarly there. Who knows what's going on? Yeah, so that's what that looks like. Not sure why I ended up with all that stuff in the background. And then abandon that idea. And here, it's just like, sometimes you just realize, nah, nothing here is working. Nothing here is worth spending more than 10 minutes on it. I just thought, if you spelled out the full name, which is called the dimension mill, that's their incorporated name, maybe you could put it in an infinity symbol, and you can't. And even if you could, it doesn't quite work. And then kind of like a checkered approach. But again, it's just like, abandon ship as soon as possible before you spend too much time on certain ideas. This out here. And then the final one, and this is just terrible. And this is where you go, all right, I've run out of ideas. It's time to start refining the good ideas that I have. So with that, then I go into like the second round of my first round. And here we go. This is the refinements. So, kind of like refining that first idea that I had. And then this is a rendering that they had of the building. So we had to figure out how the logo would look as signage. And I have a thing for patterns. So every logo that I make, I tested, can it be turned into a pattern? And sometimes it can, sometimes it can't. But I thought this one with the color shifts was sort of interesting. And so I had that. And then this one, again, with the patterns. And what I liked about that one was that you could just keep rotating, and it had this really nice rhythm, as if, like animated, this would look amazing. But I didn't have time or budget to animate that one. And again, just seeing how that looks on the sign. Just gonna move this down because the zoom thingy keeps getting in my way. This one, clearly, you cannot make it into a pattern, so I just gave up halfway. How will it look with a stroke? It starts to look a little bit too aggressive, but we just wanted to explore that. And then this one, and like here on the side, like seeing, how does that look on a t-shirt? The yellow strokes, I don't know why it was yellow there. We'll see if that's how we presented it. I'm pretty sure no. But then with this one, as soon as I had that version, I thought, that could be turned into its own custom font where you have messaging that always appears in that style. So we had that, and then the final, that badge version, we still thought there was something interesting about it. And everyone loves a badge, so might as well show one. Little Charlie Brown design here that you'll see the finished version later. So I have those things, and this is like half finished before moving into InDesign to make the presentation. Oh, we're on it. So here, this one we do have like clear names for each one. So this one is the badge, which is not very, it's quite literal. It's almost dumb to name it so literally, but because then we find that when you name the logos, it's easier for the client to refer back to them. So again, we show it in black and white with color. How it would look if you were always encased in a circle. And this is the whole area is the trace district. So in theory, this logo had to place nice with that orange logo, but since that orange logo has disappeared, so it's fine. And then just, nowadays, it's super important to show how the logo works as a social media avatar. So we show it, the bigger one and then the really tiny one. And this one, for this client, like one of the first things that they mentioned when we started talking to them is like, we want our logo to be a great sticker to put on laptops. because this was a co-working space. So the idea is that all these people are nomads and they're working in different places. So the idea that they become ambassadors for the mill whenever they're working outside of it. So we show them one like really crisp laptop sticker with just a nice Mac, one person that just has one sticker on their laptop, but then we show them this, which a lot of people have crazy laptops with stickers like that, and just how does it stand out from all that noise. In this case, whoever owns this laptop, like I want to have a beer with this person, he looks fun or she looks fun. And then just showing different colors of that. T-shirts, usually when we show t-shirts at this point, like on the left, we show a normal t-shirt, and then on the right, doesn't have to be left or right, but in this case on the right, then we show a crazier t-shirt that it would be pretty hard to reproduce and it would be costly, but just to show them like, hey, if you had the budget and you wanted to, you could spend it this way. And then it also gives us a way of seeing how they react to something like this, because then we might apply it to something else. And then our limited ability to make 3D renders. I mean, the building's 3D render was already provided, but it's just like the design, and we don't do wayfinding or signage. So this is just kind of like, yeah, this is what it could look like, and then you figure it out how to make it. The second one, this is the favorite name I have ever given a logo, which is the AC/DC, which is the one with the hard angles. It looks like heavy metal. Like it, dig it. What color it could be, how it looks with that logo. You could just have the M as the social media icon, or the full thing, which is not as readable, but you could. As a sticker would look pretty bitchin'. Especially with that one, I'd be like, oh yeah, this guy knows how to rock. T-shirts, the sign. How that gets held up in real life, I don't know, but through the magic of 3D rendering, they just float in the air. It looks kind of cool. The third one is, so that version, we named it the bond, with the idea that you come together in this building and together you make the whole. So you can always sell any logo with any kind of metaphor that you come up with after. I hope none of my clients are watching this, because they never, they don't know how much designers do this kind of stuff. Like, we do something that we like, and then we retrofit some rationalization behind it. If you don't do that, I don't do that either. Right? Let's move on. How it shows with color on the phone. That's a sticker. And this one sort of gets lost a little bit. The t-shirt could be pretty sweet if they went that way. A giant sign. We have no sense of scale when it comes to 3D renderings. And this one, I'm not sure why I called it the puzzle, but so that's what it ended up being. And I guess I did show it with the angles on the opposite direction of the building, but that half. The tittle, they look like a moon or a sun. It's kind of cute. And this one sort of it creates a nice shape for the sticker, but again, it just kept getting in the way. It will look like massive sign, almost like an AC unit sitting on top of the. Those beams there, and like here when we were showing this, we're just like, this is an idea that could be applied to any of the other options, but we just want to show you something. And then the final one, which was our favorite, we just named it the building, because that's what it is, which is a rendering of the building with the 8 roof sections. It's a long building, so it's a long logo, and with color in this case, we just thought, just make it gray. Don't think too hard about it. How it looks like that. We showed it the two options for the social media, and then eventually I'll show you how we solve the social media avatar, how it would work with the font. And up until this point, we're using DDC hardware from Aaron Draplin and another guy who I can't remember his name. And then we thought this one makes a really cool sticker shape. And then this is what sold this concept, which like the sticker would be this real endless roll of tape that you could just cut at different places, spots of the tape, and just put it on your laptop. And this one, they just loved this image, and we did too. T-shirts could be crazy like that. Let me see what time it is. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up so we can move into Q&A. Sign, and then show them the options, how they compare with each other. And I'll just show you the finished piece of this. So they actually made the sticker, the tape, which is like the best thing that a client of ours has ever actually produced. It's washi tape, which you can order in really long rolls, and it worked just like the render, the mock-up, which was kind of like mind-blowing. So that was the long logo. And then this is what we did for the social media, kind of like going back to that idea of the badge. We're like, okay, if you imply that there's more sections to this building inside then you can get away with just showing one section of the building and then bigger type in there so that you could do social media. And then you use the typeface, which they use for the sign, color palette, how it applies to the different logos, well, to two different logos. And we also made this kind of like cover version where the logo would be able to go from side to side of whatever you put it on, whether it's a flat color or photography. Made a pattern, obviously, because again, I love patterns. And this one it was so symmetric because everything was units of 4 for the space mill. So you could always align them to read horizontally and vertically, which was pretty satisfying. We did a full font for them that they could type, so that they can type it in and allow them to do designs on their own. And we ended up customizing DDC hardware in a number of ways so they will be more unique to them. And then I just want to get to their building. Oh, there it is, the sticker roll as on laptops, which is so endlessly satisfying. And they had a limited amount of rolls. We were able to talk them out of giving us one. They wanted to give us a piece. And we're like, no, we did a lot of work for you. Give us the whole damn thing. And again, like this is the locker room, their lockers in the building. So that mock-up that we did with the crazy laptop, this is actual real life. And you see the logo there. Maybe some swag on their own, T-shirt. And then we did some laser etching just because it was fun. Laser cut little buildings. And then that's the actual building, which is the type on it. That's one of the signs. And this is another one that lights up. And it's crazy because eventually through the process of selecting the logo, we were like, yeah, you could just have white letters that light up in the night. How you do it? I don't know. But they figured it out and we're like, hey, now we've designed signage. And it looks, during the day, it's just white. During the night, it lights up. And that's what it looks like inside, which is really, really nice. And yeah, and then they made this kick-ass desk on their own that one day we showed up, like, who did that? Like, that's amazing. Even had like different depths for the things. Just, they really took it and were able to run with it. So yeah, so that's it. I had another one to show you, but clearly this takes a long time to show. So I'll just stop at 2 and we'll move into Q&A.
All right. Thank you, Armin. Carrie, do you want to start or?
Yeah, I've been looking over the questions here. There are a lot of people asking about your animation process. Are you as much of a beast on After Effects as you are in Illustrator?
Here's my deep, dark secret. I use Flash. I learned to use Flash in the late 1990s and early 2000s, and now it's called Adobe Animate, but it's still the same thing. It's the stop and go with the actions and just frame, with frame animation. So yeah, all those animations, they're all done using Flash, which is really nerdy, and I love that I'm able to keep the legacy of Flash alive in one way or another.
Okay.
Holding the torch.
Yep.
That's
A
great.
flash beast you are.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you decide on typefaces, since we are the Type Directors Club? Is it mostly formal? Is it conceptual? What's your combination of both?
Yeah, usually, it's to be like, sometimes I'll have just purchased a typeface and be like, I want to use it. I want to get my money's worth, and I'll include that in the sketch, in the ideas. Sometimes I have something specific in mind, like it should be neutral, and then by default I go to Gotham or Proxima Nova or sometimes Futura. It's rare that like every now and then I'm brand new. When I'm reviewing logos, the design firms and designers will have chosen a really obscure, cool typeface, and like, woo, what's that? Like, I don't really have that ability to choose kind of like really cool, obscure fonts. So I go with some of the basics, and then I just try for them to somehow match visually whatever, if it's a monogram or an icon, whatever it is, just make sure that there's a visual relationship. I don't always find reason for why I chose a certain typeface. Like, I remember watching Abbott Miller, of one of the Pentagram partners, present a couple of logos to clients. And he always had these amazing reasons of why he chose a specific typeface, because they were, if it was a client in France, the designer that designed the typeface was also in France, but then they also matched, that they were conceived with the same moon phase or whatever. It was like, wow, like that is really thought out. But I'm just like more straightforward. Does it look good? Does it work well? And a lot of it has to do with what I have in my library. It's not always a lot. And then when I don't have something, I'll just do those online type testers that have gotten a lot better nowadays. So I'll just do a nice screen grab of those and try to use it that way.
Cool. So there are a number of questions here about client management, and one of them being, how many versions of a particular logo do you typically show a client?
It will be anywhere between 5 and 7. In our contract, we always say between 1 and 3, because we don't want them to get big expectations that we're going to do a huge exploration. But I get so excited about exploring logos. Like what I just showed you in Illustrator, that is my favorite moment as a graphic designer, when I'm just like doing things and doing the applications and seeing the renderings and the mock-ups. Like I live for the first round of exploration. So I always end up showing more than we promise, which some designers are like, no, that's too many. But to me, it's just like, there's no single right answer. Like there's literally 10 ways that this could go. So explore them all and show the client and see what they react to. And usually, whichever one is our favorite, we'll build it up a little bit more in the end, or talk more enthusiastically about it. So yeah, we show anywhere between 3 and 7. Usually 5 seems to be the case. We try to never show even numbers. I don't know why. We like to show 3, 5, or 7. I think for the BPP we showed 6. But it was that one that I didn't like, that I shouldn't have shown, to make it 5. But anyway, yeah, there's no, so yeah, we don't like to limit ourselves to how many we'll present. We'll just see what we come up with.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much of a brief do you get from clients? I know every client's different, and I mean, they sort of frame the discussion a little bit, or your exploration, or do you sort of work around that parameters that they set you?
Yeah, no, I mean, our clients are not that big, so we're usually dealing with, either the founder or the president of the board of directors, whatever it is. And they don't really have a brief. They have something in their mind. They know what they want their company, product, or service to feel like, but they don't have a brief for how that translates into a logo. So a lot of it is just asking a lot of questions about how they do business with their audiences, how they how they want the logo to perform. And from there, we our own that, some designers, a phase of their project process where they have to approve the brief. We don't do that. We just, like, whenever we show the first round, we're like, here's the brief that we came up with, and we don't even say that it's a brief. Like, these are the observations that we made that we think are relevant based on the conversations that we had. And we don't do workshops or anything like that, in part because we don't know how to. Like, that's not our thing. So we just have conversations and see what from the things that they say, what is applicable to signing a logo. So hopefully that sort of answers the question. And with the other designers, they have a much more strict process about outlining a brief before that needs to be signed off before doing any explorations. But for us, like, we don't put that much emphasis on it. So far, it's worked for us. But
Cool. Okay. And it's a classic question, but has a client ever chosen your least favorite concept? And how do you prevent that?
Yeah, it's happened. It's a little bit sad, but I think in the end, we never show anything that we would consider embarrassing. I think that it's more disappointment that they didn't choose our favorite, as opposed to disappointment that they chose something we didn't like. Because in theory, we like everything, and we always do. But yeah, it's like I think, like, with the VPP, I really like the one with the animation with the bold pieces coming in and out. And I think in my mind, that was my favorite. But then they chose another one. Like, all right, we'll go there. Like, it's, in the end, you're the one that has to live with it. And I firmly believe that we're here to make clients happy, which doesn't mean that you bend over and do whatever they say, but whatever they think is going to carry them for the next 10 years, like, let's go with that and make it the best that we can.
Have you done an online presentation? Is that different from now that we're sort of thinking about this maybe in a different way?
Yeah, I haven't done one in a while, and I used to do them before. I did a lot of them before Zoom, where you have the presentation on your screen and the client had the presentation on their screen, and you were on the phone. They're like, right, now turn to page 2, and here's what we did there. And then you tell them, like, don't look at the presentation until I talk you through it. I didn't know they opened the file. And then they pretend to be surprised by whatever. But yeah, I think what we're doing now, like, this is so much more convenient because you're in control. You control the pace. You can see the client's reaction. You can see because a lot of it is just reading body. When you're presenting, a lot of it is reading the body language of the client and the faces that they make, and do they lean in when if they see something that they're interested in? Do they start looking out the window when they see something that they're bored by? So all those things are crucial to presentations. And so it's a good thing that now, like Zoom or Google Hangout or whatever it is, you have that ability to maintain that dynamic as much as possible.
Carrie, or do you want me to? So how long is a normal, typical process for you? Like, how long did the BPP take? How long did the mill take in terms of, and is it just you working on this, or do you have a talented group of designers working for you that we don't know about?
No, it is just me. UnderConsideration is just me and Bryony, who's my wife and business partner. When it comes to logos, usually I'm the one that does them all, just because it's I'm really fast at coming up with the explorations, and for Bryony, because she's, a lot of what she does is more of the admin stuff and making sure that our kids don't die, stuff like that. So all the explorations that I've shown you, I do them. There's no team. We don't have any freelancers. And part of it is because I am a control freak. I don't like anyone doing anything that could be. A lot of people could do a lot of this better, and I could hire designers that could do 100 other explorations, but then, like, I'm not in control, and that's just not right for me in my mind. So, like, the initial process, that first round and second round of the explorations it will take me, a week and a half, which will then pad like another week and a half for the client. Like I'll be done and I'll sit on them for a week so that, the clients feel like, oh, this took a long time. And I think when I was younger, maybe it would take me 3 weeks to create this many options, but now I can go through different variations much more quickly. And then, the build up to that first round, it can be up to 3 weeks on our end. But then then it becomes a matter of the dynamic with the client, and the project can take 3 more weeks to complete, or 3 more months, or sometimes 3 more years. But that initial burst, it will be at most 3 weeks.
And sorry, go ahead, Carrie, if you have a question.
Oh yeah, I was just going to ask, the custom font for the mill, is that based on an existing typeface or derived from an existing
Yep,
typeface?
yeah, it was based on DDC hardware. And then I worked with, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name. He used to work at House Industries. He did all the technology stuff for them. He has a font named Torque. Damn it. Anyway, he helped me program it. But yeah, I designed all the characters. And I'm sure he was looking at some of the characters going like, oh my God, that is not right. But he just let me, he just helped me with open type.
Oh,
features.
yeah, he lives in Baltimore. I forgot his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he did the neon letters.
It's probably here. Let me see if I can find it. We shouldn't spend that much time
Yeah.
on this, but it's important. By Type Supply.
Yeah.
I still don't know his name, but
Yeah, no, it's that. Tal, wasn't it?
Tal Lemming,
yeah,
yes.
Tal Lemming.
Sorry, Tal. Sorry.
So you sort of, how does doing brand new help you with, since you do a lot of logos, right? Doesn't your work in doing brand new help you do your research, and it's also work at the same time? Right?
Yeah, and I think, it definitely helps because I'm always critiquing the formal aspects of logos and identities. So like I said, I don't think I'm the best designer or the most creative or the most ingenious, but when it comes to technical aspects, that's where I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm above average. I won't say I'm the best either. But I think analyzing logos on a day-to-day basis gives me the confidence that whatever I build, even if it's not the best logo ever, it's going to be really well done. And then it does expose me to different color combinations, different fonts, different ways of showing, like how to show logos in application at the first round stage where you're just trying to do mock-ups and renderings. Like a lot of what's on brand new is really helpful. Like, oh, I can show this that way. So yeah, and then even reading how people in the comments critique other logos, aside from that are in contrast to my point of view, it just helps me inform like, oh, I shouldn't do that, even though I thought it was right or wrong, whatever. So yeah, it's that constant exposure to analysis. I think it's beneficial, even if I didn't want to.
And I don't want to get into financial stuff, but how do you sort of give a range for your clients about how much these identities might cost? Does it depend again on the brief and how they use it? And
yeah, I think it depends mostly on the client. Like the BPP, that was they're a nonprofit. They barely have a budget to survive the season. So that was pro bono in exchange for sponsorship benefits. So that gives us exposure to the audience, to the community in Bloomington. The Dimension Mill, they're also a nonprofit, but they had a budget. I think that one we charged, I think it ended up being $16,000, and which for a for-profit corporation, we would double that. Like we would double the cost, and so we always ask, like, what's your budget? If they say $5,000, we'll double that because that's what they're just trying to get a deal when they say something. And sometimes they will be like, oh, that's what I have, and if that's the case, then we can be then we could say, all right, we'll do it for $5,000 or 7 or 10, whatever that is, but we'll just do a limited scope or whatever it is. But with like a typical identity project for a corporation, we'll try to get 30 grand. We don't always get it, but that's our kind of like goal.
Do you have a favorite logo or logo designer of all time that you sort of, or you don't really get into that?
Oh no, I get into it. Just trying to pick one. I think and it varies. I could say Paul Rand, which would be an easy choice, but so I think someone like Lance Wyman, who did so many cool things and so simple and so iconic. Things like that get me going. And but it could also be new designers like like Moving Brands 5 years ago. They were doing some really amazing logos. So yeah, I go with whatever is not on trend, but whatever is new and exciting. I'm happy to shift my allegiances to whoever is my favorite designer at any given point.
Cool. Okay.
All right.
And go ahead, Paul. You were saying something?
Oh, just one last question. Like, how much of your work is logo design? Is it primarily, half of what you do, more than half? Is it everything? And so how do you schedule, your time and stuff?
So it's
projects?
everything when we do client work, which is not very often. 85 to 90% of our time is devoted to both Brand New the blog, Brand New conference, and now First Round. So that takes up a huge chunk of time and energy. And that other 10, 15% we'll take on one client at a time. And they'll be 3-6 months apart. I think we've had 2 clients going on at the same time in a really long time. So whatever we do client work, we only do logo and identity work just because it's the most pleasurable practice for us. We've done websites, and that has been just horrible. It is the most horrible thing to design websites for other people, but I've done it, and I don't do it anymore. So yeah, and we've done print things and magazines, stuff like that, but the most enjoyable is logo and identity. So we try to limit it to that.
Great. I think that's the time that we have. So thank you very much, Armin.
And I have one question before we go. I see a lot of questions backed up in the Q&A. Can I go in and answer some of them?
Of course. Yes, of course.
Will people see them?
We can print them out when we send back an email to them.
All right, so I might try to answer some of those, because I see like 91, and we went through
Yeah,
like 5,
no, there's a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And I can send this as a list to you, and we can. It might be easier than answering on screen right now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Great. So thank you, everyone.
And everybody stay safe and well. And thanks, Armin. It was great seeing you.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Say hi to the family. Thank you. Best wishes.